Hello there. Here we go again. Another week in Great Britain and another week filled with horrendous murders and knife crime all over the country. In the past week in the UK, we've had a cop murdered by being run over by burglars in a getaway car. A week after, another cop was attacked on the streets of Britain by machete in broad daylight. We've got another instance where a 60-year-old man outside some home office buildings was attacked by knife. We've got a 52-year-old father of three in Newcastle stabbed to death with a screwdriver to the heart on his way home to see his family from work by teenagers he was trying to basically aid. We've had an 18-year-old teenager stabbed to death on the streets of Brixton, where his poor mother had to see his blood-covered body lay dead in the street. We've had a 20-year-old stabbed in the back in Asda, somewhere in West Yorkshire. And we've had a 16-year-old stabbed to death in North London by a couple of 17-year-old kids. Now, what this latest spate of horrific crimes and murders has shown us is that a diverse range with the ages of the perpetrators and the victims, and also the fact they're all over the country, it tells us that all of us, any one of us at any time, can become embroiled in this kind of horrific situation. And what are our authorities doing about it? Well, the latest idea is to put warnings and tales of knife crime on the side of fried chicken boxes. Are you fucking kidding me? Can you imagine some feral thug with a 6-inch blade in his waistband, sat there eating his fried chicken, looking at these and reading these warnings on the side of the box? He'd be laughing his fucking head off. Seriously. Now, if you want to make use of fried chicken boxes, I've got a better use for them. Why don't we put warnings on the side of the fried chicken boxes, warning young teenage girls who are hanging around these fast food joints all over the country? Let's warn these young girls that it's a fact, a known fact, that grooming gangs have been operating out of the same kind of such establishments as they're buying the fried chicken from around the country. That would be a much better use of a fried chicken box as far as I'm concerned. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again. If this country wanted to end this crime spree, this murderous spree, it could do so in less than 1 month. But it would have to have the balls, and it would have to take it upon itself to put into place things that would give the people on the left heart attacks. So the first option, the first thing to do is to slap the left aside, slap aside the liberals, slap aside the libtards, get rid of the women in positions of power in our justice system. Because these are the very fools who've caused this mess. They're the fools who've caused a complete erosion in discipline in this country. They've caused an erosion in deterrence for criminals. And they're the ones who've caused sentencing of criminals in this country to become an absolute fucking joke. We need to start making examples of the scum that walk our streets. I truly believe capital punishment needs to be brought back to the UK for child murderers, especially children who are murdered by their own parents, which has been highlighted in the papers this week. There's a special place in hell for parents who murder their own children, and we need to send them bastards to that special place in hell as soon as we can. Also, victims of knife crime and gun crime who are basically murdered, them murderers need also to face execution. And I'd even go a step further. I would have live executions. I'd get rid of the likes of fucking Strictly Come Dancing bullshit and Love Island bullshit. I'd have a live execution programme on primetime TV on a Saturday evening for all this scum to watch and see what happens to them when they commit murder in the UK today. Now, obviously, it'll never happen, but it is the one sure way of getting rid of this murderous crime spree straight away. But it isn't just about murder. There's so many other offences that are going unpunished. Anybody found carrying a knife in this country needs to be jailed for a minimum of 5 years. I don't mean 5 years and out into a good behaviour. 5 years jail time, regardless of your age. When they come back out, if they carry a knife again, they get 10 years. That's how you end the carrying of knives. Yeah. You don't listen to the lily livers who go on about fucking youth clubs and this and that and the other. That is how you rid the country of knife crime, pure and simple. There's other crimes, burglaries, assaults. Burglars who break into old people's homes and steal their money and aren't content with stealing the money. They want to beat up the old people to a pulp as well. They need to go to prison for 10 years when caught. 10 years without parole for aggravated assaults during a burglary on an old people's home. Road ragers. Anybody involved in a road rage, which ends with them attacking, assaulting an innocent person, needs to have the driving licence taken off them. I don't care if they lose their jobs, they lose their house, they lose their families. I don't give a fuck. It's time for people to realise if you act like animals and you assault people in the UK today, you get caged up like an animal. Now I can hear people all over the place on the left going, oh my God, this is barbaric, you can't do these things. How is it any more barbaric than a poor mother having to look at her 18-year-old son bleeding to death in the street? How is it any more barbaric than a 2 or 3-year-old being thrown against a wall till their heads caved in by an evil bastard father or partner of their mother? How is it any more barbaric than thousands of young English girls being groomed by Muslims and passed around like a piece of meat? How is it any more barbaric than a serving soldier like Lee Rigby being chopped up in the middle of the street like a piece of meat on a butcher's table, and the perpetrators of that crime are sat in a British prison now, breathing air and eating food and living nice at the expense of mine and your taxes? How is it any more barbaric than that? What needs to happen in the UK now is the men of the UK need to find their balls, because the authorities aren't going to willingly make this happen. The left aren't going to willingly allow it to happen. The men of the UK need to stand up. You need to basically get rid of your fucking moisturiser, put down your beard trimmers and find your balls. You need to change the topics of your conversation from talking shit about bullshit like Love Island and discussing VAR and fucking the offside rule in football, because the elites love all this shit. They love the distractions that the celebrity obsession and the sports obsession give and take the minds of the UK men away from the real issues in the UK today. If you go back 50 years ago in the UK, do you think the men of that time would stand by and allow Muslim grooming gangs to operate all over the country, grooming and raping thousands of young English girls? Do you think they would stand by while feral youths all over the country are going around armed with knives and causing mayhem in their country? They wouldn't have stood up for it for 1 minute. They would be up in arms. They would have been demanding action from the government and from the police. And if that action wasn't forthcoming, they'd have took it upon themselves to put things right. Also, 50 years ago, do you think the government and the media and the police would have been as easy to collaborate together and collude together to cover up crimes such as Muslim rapes and young black men stabbing each other all over the place? Absolutely not. The men back then would not have stood for it. So why in the UK today are we standing for it? How come there's been grooming gangs operating in this country for the past 12, 13 years? And for the first 4 or 5 years, nobody knew about it because of the collaboration between the media and the government and the police to keep it on the hush-hush. But even when it came out a few years later, why wasn't there tens and tens of thousands of British men on the streets demanding justice, demanding action from the government to end this absolute atrocity towards young English girls? Why wasn't it happening? I'll tell you why. Because the UK has simply become a country mostly made up of indoctrinated, material obsessed, celebrity obsessed, self-obsessed, self-preserving, selfish people. The pervading attitude in the UK today is this: I'm all right, Jack. As long as none of these atrocities affect me or affect my own, why should I do anything about it? Why is it my problem? Our predecessors that I mentioned from 40, 50 years ago will be turning in their fucking graves at the mess the UK has become today. Now, we've got a couple of options. We can carry on and leave things as they are. They can stay this way. We can continue to lie down to the left. We can continue to relinquish control of the UK to the leftists and to the women in power. Or we can do something about it. Because as bad as the situation is, it's still retrievable. Okay? So the men of Britain can come together and apply real pressure to the government, the authorities. Yeah? Real pressure and fight for change. Okay? Because for the good of the UK, there needs to be a change in the way things are. So really, it's down to the men, because the authorities aren't going to willingly do it. The left aren't willingly going to allow. The agenda-driven police aren't going to allow it to happen. Okay? It's down to the men of the UK to think back to their history and to the men, the great men in the history of this country, and to find their balls and to put their best foot forward in the future to make Britain great again. Until next time, guys, feel free to like, share, subscribe, comment. Take care of yourselves.